Let me begin our ceremony today by asking the New Bedford High School Band to play our national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, the band has to leave now, and I thank Eric Drew and all the band members for taking time out of their busy day to come here for this important occasion. Great job, Eric. It has been 11 years since September 11th, 2001, and in the time since, I think most would recognize the date as one of the central events in America's history. As we all know, and as we'll never forget, on that day, 19 Islamist terrorists hijacked 4 domestic American airliners and flew them into 2 buildings in New York, the Pentagon, and crashed the 4th in a farm in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. 3,000 people died on that day. There were people who were on their way to work, commuting by plane across the country, thinking that this was just another business flight. There were airline pilots, there were stewardesses, there were people who had office jobs in the World Trade Centers and in the Pentagon who were just showing up for another day at work. There were people on the ground who were just walking down the street. And of course, there were firefighters and police officers who, at the risk of their own lives, tried to save others that day, only to perish in the rubble of the World Trade Centers. In the years that followed, others would perish as well in the 2 wars that followed. One of those wars continues today, and Americans right now are in peril on the battlefields of Afghanistan. It is altogether fitting and appropriate that we pay tribute to all of them, all of those who perished and all of those who were either scarred physically or emotionally on that day and from the events that followed. And we here in New Bedford are paying tribute in the same way that others in other communities are paying tribute. It's because that day bound us all together as Americans in some very fundamental ways. We'll never forget where we were on that day, just as a generation before never forgot where they were the day that President Kennedy was shot. I, for one, will never forget where I was. I was commuting to work in Boston that day, and I took the American Eagle bus. And on my way up, I had just gotten my first cell phone. I remember back that far. It wasn't that long ago when we first started getting cell phones. My wife called me. We just had our first child a couple of months before, and she called me and said, I was watching the Today Show, and this airplane crashed into one of the World Trade Center buildings. And I thought, well, you know, there was that time during the Second World War when a B-17 flew into the Empire State Building. A B-17 which had departed from, of all places, New Bedford Municipal Airport. On that day, the aircraft flew into the Empire State Building because of the fog. And I thought, you know, it's a crystal clear day throughout the Northeast today, and, you know, with modern navigational systems being what they are, there's no way that could have been a mistake. And then I hung up, and she called back a few minutes later in tears and said another plane just flew into the second building, and then it was obvious that this was no accident. I'll never forget that. Every one of us here has a story of where you were on that day, and we'll all go to our graves with that story. And we all know how we felt on that day. We felt the sadness for the victims. We felt the rage, the anger that someone would do that to us. But most of all, what I hope lasts from that day, and I know that all of us hope lasts from that day, is the feeling and the need to do something to help our fellow Americans, to help those in our community, to help those in need, to strengthen our nation, to strengthen our communities. I believe since that day, our nation is stronger. That was a singular moment in our history, and I think our nation has benefited from all the volunteerism that sprung from that day, especially those who signed up to join the fight, to serve in our armed forces. Millions have done so since that day, not out of a sense of economic opportunity or a sense out of personal growth, but a sense that something had to be done. Our nation is stronger as a result of that. What's harder to compute are all the countless acts of generosity that people felt prompted to make as a result of that day and the days that followed and the years that followed. This makes us a stronger nation and made New Bedford a stronger community, and that is certainly something to build upon, and that's why one of the reasons why we try to remember today. The best way to pay tribute to those who fell is to continue in that spirit, to look for ways to help one another out, to serve our communities, to honor those who have served in the military, and to encourage others to serve in the military, because it is a noble calling. To thank our firefighters and our police officers for undertaking what are risky professions, professions that are, by their very nature, meant to serve all of us. And by serving others, we will pay tribute to those who fell on September 11th. We will strengthen the bonds of community, and in some modest way, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, offer our own modest sacrifices upon the altar of freedom. It's a way of helping us remember that day. I have a proclamation that I will read, but more importantly, I have something else here. And back about a year or so ago, the administration of Mayor Scott Lang ordered a piece of the World Trade Center, as many other communities had done in the last few years. As luck would have it, it just arrived yesterday, thankfully, in time for this ceremony. And I'd like to take a moment to reveal that piece. It's a piece of steel from one of the towers. And what we hope to do is display it here in City Hall as a constant reminder of what took place that day, but also, I hope, a reminder of our need to really help one another out. And I'm proud to reveal it now. Now, I'd like for everyone to come up and take a look at it. It's a piece of history, no doubt, but it also, I hope, will remind everybody of that day. We will put it on display here, at least for the time being, in City Hall, and then we'll find an appropriate permanent place for it somewhere here in the city of New Bedford. But this piece of steel, this unadorned piece of steel, which, you know, just looks like any other piece of steel, has real meaning. It really connects all of us Americans to that special day, and we have a little bit of a piece of it here in New Bedford as a reminder of that day. So with that, I hope that each of us can take time to reflect on what connects each one of us as New Bedfordites and as Americans. And I do invite you all up to take a closer look at it. And with that, there were some elected officials in attendance today, and I'd also like to acknowledge two members of the clergy, in particular, Fire Department Chaplain Father Oliveira, as well as Police Department Chaplain Reverend David Lima. And thank you for being the guiding lights in our police and fire departments, especially in times like this. I know certain of the elected officials would like to speak right now, and I invite whichever one's up would care to do so.
Thank you, Mayor Mitchell. First, on behalf of the New Bedford City Councils who are here today, Councilor Oliveira, Councilor Gomes, Councilor Bousquet, am I missing anyone? I think that's it. And that's it. But on behalf of the entire New Bedford City Council, I'm both humble but also feeling such emotion being here in front of you, because as the mayor stated, each and every single day as our lives go on, that one time of September 11, 2001, as you probably sit here today through the speaking engagement, you're probably remembering yourself of where you were during that day, and you probably can remember very clearly of exactly where you were. As the mayor shared his story, I was a senior at New Bedford High School in my class, and our teacher had notified us in class that something horrific happened at the trade centers. But it just shows you that no matter how old you are, during that time, I remember very clearly until I got home and put the TV on, that a bunch of 16, 17, 18-year-olds in one class, young, got together, said a prayer, and really just felt that emotion inside our classroom, and really brought us and united us together. There's not a day that members of this council doesn't take into consideration of making sure that each and every single day that we thank our New Bedford Police Department, that we thank our New Bedford Fire Department, that we thank our New Bedford Emergency Services Department who are here today. They have a very difficult job. And that day should not just always be remembering of what happened that day, but also we should clearly think about that these men and women who serve in our own department put their life on the line as well. And as the mayor said, that we lost thousands of people that day, but also let us not forget the thousands of people that we also lost during our services of people who serve this country, every single veteran. We thank you for your service, and the even many thousands who have been injured, and the number continues to rise during that time. It's an honor to be here in front of you all during this time, and let's remember that even though today we sit here in front of all of you and remembering September 11th, and certainly will never be forgotten, but let's continue to do these types of services around our city, and let's not use this date just for that, but let's continue to make sure that we acknowledge our public safety departments every single day, and that we also acknowledge our veterans who sacrificed their lives for us to make us feel safe, and they are the reason why we are here today. Thank you, and God bless.
Well, good afternoon. On behalf of those that I have the pleasure of representing, the good folks from the 13th Bristol District, a special thank you to the first responders, our firefighters, our police, and all the other first responders. I believe at one point before 9/11, we probably took the first responders for granted. But we know for sure, we know now how important it is. They put their lives on the line every day for us, for all of us, be in New Bedford, be throughout the country, whenever they answer that call. And I think it's important for us to pay special tribute to those first responders. Special tribute to those who died that day and their families. We all know of someone or some family member that suffered that day, be those who were in those towers, be some first responders in the city of New York and New Jersey from the Port Authority, be families throughout our communities. I know many of you know so many who are connected back to that day. And as the mayor said, I'm sure that all of us remember what we were doing that moment on September 11, 2001. I had the ability and the pleasure this morning to actually see the ceremony at 8:43 in the White House on TV, obviously. The President and the First Lady, and also in Ground Zero. It's moving to see the respect that all of us really have for the victims, the families, and for all of us. And New Bedford is a community that knows how to stop in time, to also pay tribute to the victims of that day, as we always do, to our veterans throughout the year. And let's not forget those who are over in Afghanistan and those who are in Iraq. That was two wars that were directly related to 9/11. And lives are still lost every day. To make sure that we are safe, that we are a stronger nation, as the mayor said. Not only we are safer and we are stronger, but I think many parts of the world today are safer and stronger and united because of the events of that day, but also because of the leadership that our nation has provided to the rest of the world on the issue of terrorism and on the issue of bringing us together to fight the evil of terrorism. So thank you again on my behalf and the behalf of every single one of those who lives on the 13th Bristol District. Thank you very much.
My name is Keiko Oral, and on behalf of the 12th Bristol District, I come to pay tribute to the victims of 9/11 and to remember. And I think that that's why we're all here. We all remember where we were on 9/11. And we remember that on that day, we hugged our kids, and we called our parents, and we called our friends to make sure that they were okay. And I think that as Americans, we need to do that. We need to put aside political differences, race, economic backgrounds, and we need to join together as Americans in a common cause, much like we did on that day on September 11th. We were kinder and gentler on September 12th. We were compassionate and caring. And I think that those are things that we can take away, that we can move forward with as we bring our country and as we come together. I think that that's what we need to do on September 11th. We need to remember, and we need to be compassionate and caring towards others. Thank you so much for having me in this ceremony.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to close the ceremony with a rendition of God Bless America by New Bedford High School student Hannah Boudreau. Hannah? Where's Hannah? There she is.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the
Wonderful job, Lena. Thank you very much, everyone. Please do come up. We're going to probably bring this into the lobby area, but I invite everyone to come up and take a look at this. This is really New Bedford's newest monument, and it's very appropriate that we're able to present it to the public on this day. Thank you.